Today we are going to do an oil change on a Buick Park Avenue 1988 with a 3.8 liter V6. An oil change is a good thing to do on just about any car. It's one of the easiest maintenance tasks that you can perform yourself. Annie's actually done her own first oil change on her car not too long ago. So how was that experience for you?
You know, it was not as hard as I thought it was going to be. We had a little trouble getting the drain plug out, but once we did, everything was smooth sailing, and I would definitely do it again.
So on the Buick here, what's the first thing we're going to do?
So the first thing we're going to do on the Buick is we're going to run the engine for a few minutes just to get everything warmed up and so the oil will drain more easily.
Next, you're going to want to support the car using a jack and jack stands, always for safety. An alternative is these sturdy ramps. You can just roll your car right up onto them. They're a good choice for beginners.
Once we've got the car elevated, we're going to unscrew the oil fill cap and pull out the dipstick. This will also help the oil drain more easily.
So the next thing you're going to want to do is get down under the car and remove the oil drain plug. You want to make sure that you've got the right size wrench or socket, and you remove it by turning in a counterclockwise motion.
Once you've drained all the oil, the next thing you're going to do is remove the filter. There are a couple different places under your car that the filter could be. If you're not sure, check your owner's manual. Most of them you can untwist by hand with a counterclockwise motion, and be careful when you're doing this because some oil will probably drain out of the filter. You don't want to get it all over your hands.
While the vehicle is draining, you can prep the new filter for installation. You're going to do this by running a little bit of oil around the gasket surface. This will ensure that the filter seals more completely to the vehicle once you reinstall it. You also want to check your drain plug, make sure the threads are in good condition, that they're clean and not stripped out, and make sure that the gasket doesn't need to be replaced as well. Replace the filter by threading it on clockwise. Make sure it's nice and straight. You very much do not want to cross thread it on the spline because you'll end up with a huge mess on your hands. Generally, the best thing to do is to thread it all the way up until it makes contact with the gasket surface, and then give it another quarter to a half of a good turn to make sure it's nice and snug to prevent any future oil leaks. Last of all, you want to replace the drain plug. Make sure that you're threading it in nice and straight. You want to be very careful not to cross thread it again, just like with the filter. Tighten it all the way down, and then once it's tight, you put a wrench on it, give it another good turn, and maybe even give it a couple of swings with a rubber mallet just for good measure. Make sure it's nice and tight. You don't want to nuke it down too hard because then it can strip it out, but just make sure that it's tight enough that it's not going to back off on its own.
Once you've replaced your drain plug and you have the new filter in, you can go ahead and pour some new oil into the engine. Most cars take about 4 or 5 quarts of oil. This car takes 4, so we're going to pour in most of this 5-quart bottle. If you're not sure what type of oil your car takes, you can check in the owner's manual or at the parts store.
So that concludes the oil change on our V6 Buick. What do you think? Was it more difficult than the Chevy HHR, or was it about the same?
No, you know, it was actually a lot easier than Chevy HHR. I think I'm going to go buy one of these.
That might be a good idea. However, the basic steps for an oil change are pretty much the same no matter what vehicle you're talking about. So chances are this is something that you can get out and do yourself.